but for soft skill answer, you need to train it, such as how I train it.
It should be streaming live right now. Okay, so we're getting started in 1 minute. Let me go to all the aspects so you can see this already. Okay, great. So it's successfully live in both platforms. Awesome. Cool. We're getting started in 1 minute. About it. Awesome. Welcome, guys. Let me stop sharing the screen. I'm also plugging my phone right here.
Welcome, guys. Hey, guys, this is Dr. Nancy Lee. I'm so excited to see all of you guys today. Today is our first episode of Product Insider podcast, and I'm very excited to have our guest, Lupin Campos, with us today, and also a quick introduction how things work in our podcast. This is Dr. Nancy Lee, your host and your host today regarding Product Insider podcast. I'm a director of product and featured in Forbes. I am obsessed with all things career growth, product management, and nonprofit. And we want to help you to create a product you are truly passionate about and create the impact you can create a product you can impact millions of people's life together, and also make the work-life balance that you deserve and maintain the things you feel passionate about in your life as well. And quick introduction myself, I'm an immigrant with $800 in my pocket when I moved to the US, and within 4 years, I became a director of product, and right now I run my own educational company called Product Manager Accelerator, and my goal is make product management career available for everybody. That's why on our Product Insider podcast, we brought lots of industry leaders to share with you guys how they grew their career into leadership positions and how they create a product that actually impact millions of people's life together. Awesome. So great. I'm very excited to have Lupin Campos with us together, and she is Director of Product Growth and Stash. Let me do a proper introduction of her. Hi, Lupin. How are you?
I'm good, Dr. Nancy. How are you?
I'm doing very well. So glad to have you on our podcast. So let's do this. Lupin, so why don't I just let us know regarding the bio, what do you plan to do today, and do a proper introduction of Lupin. And currently, so Lupin is an electric product manager leader and former entrepreneur, and above all, a mom of two. She has worked in tech for almost 15 years and playing diverse roles, from leading a consulting company to funding an ad tech startup and being a venture partner at a VC firm. Lupin has also focused on helping mission-driven companies grow as a growth product manager and leader for the last few years. And she currently helped the 99% build long-term wealth by guiding the customer acquisition and subscriber experience at Stash. And when not at work, and she will spend time playing with her kids in the backyard and hiking in the trails of Atlanta, or heading out of country to visit her friends and family. We'd love to have you today. And Lupin, why don't we do this? Today we talk about product growth and also imposter syndromes and also challenges for women working at home, especially during this pandemic and post-pandemic hybrid combo experience. So let's get started regarding, do you want to give a quick overview? I gave a very long bio of who you are. Do you want to give us a quick overview regarding your career growth? How you get into where you are right now?
Yeah, sure. It's been fun, and I the quick part is going to be hard because I'm in my 40s now. It's my first month that I can say that. So I'm
you look much younger than that. Next time you say I'm in my 30s. No, yes, I agree.
But I've been so it's been a long path here, and it was never straightforward, which is, I think, a commonality within product managers in general. I studied industrial design, started working in advertising, and then from there I moved to software with my best friend, because we wanted to found our own thing, and we wanted to have our own company. And software was what we had in common. So doing the same thing that I was doing in as an industrial designer, that was understanding problems and building solutions. From there, I moved from the physical world to this online world and the computer world. And then, yeah, I've been doing, I did that for many years. We pivoted that into a startup in the ad tech space, as you mentioned. I was the CEO. We learned a lot about like fundraising and all that. And then unfortunately, after like 3 years, we decided to close that company. We didn't want to go through like an acqui-hire or something. We were just tired of a lot of really hard work that takes having your company and raising money and all that. But one of our investors was like, hey, it was great working with you. What would you want to do next? I was like, I have no idea. She was like, okay, great. Then you're going to come work with us and we'll figure that out together while you have a salary. And at that time I was moving from New York to the West Coast to California for my husband's job. So I was like, okay, great. Because the VC was in California. It was 500 startups. So I spent there a year and a half-ish. And then I decided that I couldn't be behind people being like, yeah, you should like think about this way or like that. I wanted to do things. I missed executing. I missed being on top of the product. And I started doing, so I started my job search. I started doing product management, which was what I was doing before, but I just didn't know much. Like I was doing a lot of working with engineers and like converting problems into solutions and guiding them through the process. And I had done like agile courses and all that. I was like, I'm pretty much a product manager. I just didn't know that. So that's when I started doing product and got really excited about the early life cycle of the users. And my first company that I started as a senior product manager, I was fascinated about that part. I had no mandate on where to work, but I knew that a lot of our KRs were easier if we started it early in the life cycle. And working there, I realized that was really passionate about that. That kind of like touched a little bit on my advertising and ad tech days, because there's a lot of like related with like Facebook ads and all that I was doing in my company before. And then so my following company was like, hey, we're looking for a director in the product growth. I was like, listen, I've been increasing these numbers in the onboarding flow, increasing these numbers of like the activation and whatnot. And we're like, sounds like a good match. So I moved there. And then since then I've stayed in that area for.
That's awesome. And actually your story resonates with lots of our audience, because lots of us are not product manager at the beginning of a career, which is doing something, and which will happen to be that we work with engineers, we work with company to create certain type of product to solve problem for others. And not until tech industry becomes so popular, so prominent, now everybody do not want to be a McKinsey consultant. Say, oh, let me become product manager. Now it become a thing that everyone transitioning into PM. And that's why later on we'll talk about imposter syndrome. People feel like they are not fully equipped, or they're good enough. They don't feel like they are into the fan level or big tech level or into a direct level as well. But I'm glad you show us all the paths into PM you have taken to get to where you are right now. So Lupin, let's talk about this regarding growth PM. I think this is a relatively new area for product management space. You specialize in growth, and also as a director, you always manage like other people working under you to grow your team as well. So why don't you give us a quick introduction regarding what is growth product management? What do you guys do?
So I think growth is slightly differently defined in each company, but on the big scheme of things, it's basically the work you do from the moment the user learns about you to the moment they start paying. If you have a subscription product, or if you have like a e-commerce, is the moment they buy something. But how to grow that audience, how to convert them better down the funnel, and how to make sure that they're coming back, right? So it's a little bit working in the early life cycle of the user. There's also product-led growth, which is basically working constantly on creating opportunities for new users and generating these famous product loops, where it's like, oh, well, a product like company is a company that has a product that will ignite the fire of bringing new users. So a company where like Pinterest is a big example of that. People started like pinning things on their boards, and then people will Google certain terms and find out about those boards, and then create a Pinterest account and then pin more things on the boards and whatnot. So that's kind of like product-led growth, which is kind of the ideal scenario on the growth space. But there's also the few steps prior to that, where we say, okay, let's make sure that we have a great product that works and that is useful for our users and that makes them excited about being there and makes them pay for it. And that's also product growth. So basically, how we treat users from the ads all the way to the inside product experience, and how we convert them better, and how we generate this trust. That's like one of the biggest things in the last 6 years, I want to say. 5 years I've been owning onboarding processes, and trust is the commonality. And this is through wellness, fintech, like kids related fintech or financial investment related fintech. Always is about trust and about gaining that trust from the customer and keeping it and increasing it over time. So that's what I've been doing on the growth side, basically thinking, how does the user feel throughout the flow, throughout this onboarding flow, through this first time user experience. There are screens that you as a user only see once. And that's the only opportunity you as a company have to delight them and delight them, yes, and to kind of like help them move forward and help them feel this trust and all that. So for me, growth is a lot about generating trust with the user, and providing the user an experience that will make them understand the value they are getting right away. So bringing the value early on the user life journey, super important. You don't need to wait for them. In my case, right now, I work at Stash, is a fintech company. It's about investment. It's about building long-term wealth. Like even the name of what we do describes that it's really hard to show value right away when we're long-term wealth. So
especially your company, I looked up your company. Actually, earlier, when I exploring different startup ideas, I work on one of the idea, which is helping women to invest better. And I look around of the existing competition with Stash. You guys have really good product actually, and helping small people like us to get started. It's like, you don't need to be a millionaire. It's in your intro, like 99% like us, 1% of people, the millionaire, like, and there are 20 financial advisors going after them. And you guys using the software fintech approach for small people who started with 100, 200, or maybe 1,000, 10,000, you can get started investing today. So that's your product. Can you tell us more regarding for Stash, what your unique customer acquisition strategy?
That question is always hard, also because it's like how much you want to tell, but I think our customer acquisition strategy is around giving the users a good product and a good service from the first moment. By doing that, basically what you do is you decrease your customer acquisition costs, because you are paying these new users to your advertising partners against them actually creating the account. So you want to make sure that all of them are creating accounts, and that lowers your cost. So that's kind of like a virtuous cycle. And also on the other side, we create experiences outside the app that other people can join and share. We have Stock Buddy, that is basically any Stash user can sign up to Stock Buddy, and the more people in the pool, the bigger the pool gets, and everyone gets stock for free. So you are encouraged to sharing it with a family. So a lot about like referrals and sharing it. So you get more people to use Stash, and then these parties get bigger, and then you get more stock on it. So it's kind of like trying to incentivize people. But I think ultimately it's also a lot for Stash about education and getting people that never thought they were going to be able to have like a retirement account, to have savings, to have and to start investing with their own money, being like, hey, let us educate you, and you can learn how to do this with your day-to-day money. And maybe you skip that Starbucks coffee and put this in your future, and maybe you skip this decision and you put that in your future. So I think that's a lot about we grow by giving people back the power on their money, and that is contagious.
This is amazing. Did I hear a keywords called you give free stocks as people join? Is that how this works? We should have affiliate links.
We have free stocks on Stock Party. We have free stocks when you create your account for the first time, and we also have a stock back card. So instead of getting points on your debit card or whatever, on your credit card, on your stash card, you get stock back. So you get 36 cents today, and that money is going to grow when you just keep it there, and that's money for free. So
this is amazing.
We want to get people to understand the value of compound investment, the value of looking long term. But as a growth manager, product manager, it's really hard to consolidate that with, we need to show you value right away, right? It's like,
exactly,
the value is like, have a great experience, and while you have that great experience in our app, you're building your future at the same time. So that's kind of like the fascinating, like, at least the part that I'm really excited about.
This is awesome. Oh, by the way, we're going to link the free stock links in the show notes. Everybody make sure to download and get your free stock as well. Okay, we're going to get a link after the podcast. Just discover something new. Awesome. Now, Lupin, let me ask you this. It sounds like your company is product-led growth strategy. You have amazing product design, different kind of free stock, incentivize them, educational plan, and then drive users to continue to use your product instead of spending lots of money on ads and direct marketing. Am I right?
Yeah, that's the intention is to have a healthy balance. No company can throw money to the problem all the time, and especially on these times that we're living in. So then that was a big change across the board from all the people I've been talking to, whereas like a few years back during COVID, companies like most online products were having a feast, right? They were like throwing money, and people were locked in their houses, just taking it, clicking on any ad and downloading anything that felt that could give them some like whatever opportunity for having fun, opportunity to save more money, to do this. Like, it was like kind of like a party going on for people that were advertising online products, because competition died. Like, people saving to go on trips, people saving to take the kids to Disney, like all that money kind of like needed to be allocated somewhere. The tables turned last year, right? The market kind of went everywhere. People started going out more and traveling more and spending more money in other things, in dinners and this and that. So companies had to be much more efficient on their spend, and those are the companies that have been doing well and have been surviving this down market, where like you're not throwing money to the problem, you are making sure that every dollar that you put in there is giving you a fair return, and if not, you're not spending it, you're like spending it somewhere else. So it's the good thing about being more like product-led growth is like, okay, we're giving a good product, we are finding other ways to bring people in that is not paying them, and that is basically accelerating the growth. Of course, you always do paid advertising, because it's also like branding, and we're not like you need to be out there, but it would be much slower, the growth of the company and the overall like growth of the product if it's only based on paid.
Right. Given that, let me ask a deeper question. I love to ask those kind of questions. So given the ad spend, return on investment on ad spend is definitely like lower than before. So you need to introduce new strategy to grow. Besides ads, what are the strategies you have? Sounds like it's mainly having customers to get free stock, use the product. Am I right? So what does, let's say, top 5 or top 3 growth strategies outside the current ad spend right now?
There's a lot. I would say there's a lot going on about promotions. This is not like Stash exclusive, but for what I'm seeing, promotions. So referrals is a big one. It's kind of like a really cheap way to acquire good customers, because if you have a good customer, that good customer is going to bring in average good customers. So referrals is a good it's really used, and also people are familiarized with referrals enough that you're kind of like expecting the companies to have like a link you can share. So I get 20 and you get 20 and you get 30.
Yeah.
I think that's the most popular, well-known one. And then it's more about network effect. So if you, and this is not like for Stash particularly, but if you bring more people to certain product, your experience with the product is better. So you want to bring more people in. What else? It's not ready for this one. Yeah, trying to grow, like try to improve the experience, and get better ranked in both SEO, in App Store searches, and all that too, of course. So if you care about the users you have, then the return increases for you too. So
this is awesome. Thank you for sharing us the insider secret. So as I said, when my goal when we started the podcast, I wanted to Joe Rogan style podcast. We really want to bring in any deeper follow-up questions. That's why we just hit on different questions. Awesome. Okay, so let's do this. Lupin, thank you for sharing all the like insider secret, because this is a very exciting path of having amazing product that helps to grow. Because if you have amazing product, nobody uses it, it's kind of hurting the feelings of product managers. So that's why your role is extremely important for the company. Now let's switch the gear a little bit. Now let's talk about the unique challenges for women facing at work, and also how imposter syndrome is preventing women from advancing their career. We talk about this many times when we have offline discussion. I personally feel like I'm an imposter throughout my own career, and only until like last week, I started to admit to other people that I was very, very poor. And actually I sent like 2 paychecks of my first internship money back to China. And that time it's only $10,000, but that $10,000 is like 2 years salary for my dad. And throughout my entire career, I always felt I don't deserve it. I came from a very poor background, and my English was broken, and always felt like someone else is better than me out there. Even if when I got director position, I always felt, oh, I'm too young to be a director managing someone 20 years older than me. This is just like sounds crazy. Never felt I'm good enough. I think lots of women out there feel the same way. Can you touch up on more regarding the challenges women are facing at work, and any advice you can give them?
Sure. So a lot to unpack there, but I feel I have yet to meet a woman that's like, no, I have zero imposter syndrome, and 24/7 I feel that I'm the right person for this job. Like there are some there, I haven't met them personally. I feel there's also men that have that, but it's more pronounced on women. I think that brings the challenge of not putting yourself out there, not asking, like the famous like get a seat on the table. Was like it's the common expectation is that you're gonna be like walking around and someone's gonna be like, hey, this is your seat on the table, and men are kind of like just walking by, pull the seat and sit on the table, right? It's like, it's that's at least that's how it feels from outside. Like the confidence is different when it comes to those things. But at some point in my career, what happened to me was that I started getting closer relationships with women much more senior than I was. And I started hearing their struggles, and I started hearing their, like, why am I even here? Questioning themselves. I was like, oh, so this never stops. You don't grow out of it. You just like learn to
live with it.
Right. So I was like, so you have to kind of like fake it till you make it, but you're never quite making it for yourself. You're making it. This, like, I remember talking with this person. It's like, she was a senior VP at a company. She had a massive team, whatever.
Wow.
And she was still being like, I don't even know why am I in the executive team. Like, what am I doing here? I was like, are you kidding me? You're like my hero and you don't know why you're there.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, so if this badass, super experienced white woman feels that, myself as this tiny Latino, not badass one, like, I'm always going to feel that way. So I better just deal with it and keep pushing it away. And every time it comes, because it kind of like creeps in, right? It's just suddenly you're like, oh, they're going to notice. Oh, they're going to notice. This is the day they're going to, like, the amount of times I think I've been fired is a week you don't want to know. Like, I'm like, every time someone is not smiling at me, I'm assuming I'm going to get fired. And maybe they're thinking something else. Like, I'm like, just like, one day I was in New York. I'm based out of Atlanta, as you said at the beginning. My headquarters are in New York. And I went there for 3 days to do kind of like a planning session for the following quarter with my manager and whatnot. And we, first meeting, he was quiet and he's like, well, so let's talk about, and I was like, oh my God. And he said, wait, I was like, no, nothing. And he's kind of like, and he starts telling me what he was telling me. I was like, not getting fired. And then I'm like, I told him, I was like, do you think I will make you come all the way to New York to fire? Like, what's wrong with you? I don't know. But I decided I had to be honest about those things. And he knows I'm super insecure. And he's like younger than I am, and like, and whatnot. And he, like, his experience, and he was like, you know what, you like, you have a lot going on there. But
wow,
I know it happens. And I feel that, like, I have that feeling all the time because I'm also really hard on myself. And that's a commonality in a lot of us. It's like, if I do something that I don't feel, it might have not been the right decision, I'm like, okay, you deserve to leave. And I'm like, no, that was actually not, I had that last week. It was like, that was actually not a bad decision because you were lacking part of the context. Now you have the full context and we redefine the decision and it's fine. I was like, sure. It's like, still getting that paycheck at the end of the month, you know? Like,
yeah, it's all in our head, right? And actually, she was right that you're flying all the way from Atlanta to New York to fire you. No, because you're doing a good job. We're having a strategic discussion of the company. Yes, majority of the imposter syndrome is all in our head. It's like crazy. Thank you for sharing the story with us, being vulnerable. Yeah. I think lots of women heard this. They must feel, oh, even she felt this way, it's okay. Sometimes I felt the same way.
How much I would have loved hearing a director or whatever role higher than mine say that when I was a PM or like a senior PM. I was like, I was never enough for myself. I am never enough for myself. But hearing, okay, like, that's why I share it. It was like, you know what? Maybe you're thinking the same. And at the same time, you are thinking that I'm great. So now you see what's happening, right? It's like, oh, I was thinking that was great. And she was feeling that imposter syndrome for herself. So now I'm like, oh, I'm authorized to feel that, but I can push through it. So if I tell it myself, like, I hopefully one person hearing this is like, you know what? She's right. This is going to be here. I need to live with it. I don't think you need to fight it because this is a lost battle. It's going to be there. It's annoying. It's going to creep in weird situations. Each one of us have different triggers. For me, everything that is a trigger, apparently. But also, I have moments when I'm like, I'm the fucking boss bitch. Like, I know what I'm doing. I have this super clear. Someone comes to me and I'm like, answer, great. And they look at me and I know a lot of stuff. Like, I'm a smart person.
Exactly.
Then this like little devil here comes and is like, no, you're not. No, you're not. Didn't you notice in that meeting how someone rolled their eyes? And maybe their husband was behind their computer, you know, like making faces. Yeah, you don't know.
Exactly. And also I have a secret I want to tell you. We had a live meeting when we scheduled the talk, right? When I talked to her, I was like, this woman is so badass. I felt that way. You know, you left a really good impression and also inspire people to push through. I was like, this woman is so badass. But being vulnerable is a key to connect with the audience. And today, when badass woman says, "Oh, I feel like if people don't laugh at me, don't laugh, don't smile at me, means I'm fired." It's like, wow, people feel the same way, even if she's a badass to me. Yeah, it's crazy that happens. Even if you're senior, it happens in all levels.
Yeah, it happens everywhere. It happens. I'm getting more and more comfortable asking advice to more like senior people, and I keep hearing like, yeah, you're not crazy, like you have this, that you can, like, just stop listening to that tiny voice that is bringing you down and listen to all the other voices that are telling you you're actually doing, like, you're doing a good job. Like, if you get praise in a message or in a channel or in all hands or something, like, I'm like always try to kind of like diminish those things and be like, oh, that's not it's actually not truth. You know, it's like, I'm not that awesome, but if someone says something that is not great about me, oh, I'm gonna clinch on that and I'm gonna make that big and I'm gonna believe that. And that's like, it's a lot of mental work to learn to let go of the things that you don't like and not overthink them, because they're most times not something that's actually true. And then do overthink the good things, because those give you that fuel that you need to keep pushing against the bad things, like the bad ideas and the tiny devil.
Exactly. So in summary, what do you think the top 3 things we can do when there's little devils coming up in our ear?
I think you have to somehow befriend it and be like, let me challenge you. I don't think fighting it is a solution. It's either you ignore it or you befriend it in a way where you're like, you know what, I'm gonna prove you wrong in a friendly way, you know, and that kind of gives you that fuel for pushing harder. I think talking to people, and I think you mentioned before, like one of your questions, like challenges women have in the workforce, and most of us, like product managers, the tech workforce is known for being highly male and highly white represented, especially on leadership levels. So I think community is a big challenge sometimes. So I encourage anyone, like if there's only one other woman in the entire company, be her best friend, because you need a best friend inside. You need someone that's going to support you in those like big meetings. You need someone that is going to help you decompress, that understands where things are coming from and all that. I think that's one thing. Representation is another problem that I see when you look up in your career and there's
nobody looks like you.
Exactly. And you and I, it's like, as an immigrant, as a woman, I was like, what else? Like a person of color, what else do I have? I'm super proud. One of the things that I love about Stash, and I love many things about Stash, but one of the things I love about Stash is the representation. Like right now, starting a couple of months ago, I think, or a month ago, we have a female CEO, which is rare in fintech. Right?
Wow.
When they announced it, we were like, what? And she's been in our board for a long time. So she knows, like, we know her, she's great. We, like, all of us were like, finally, that's what we were looking for, like more representation. We have our executive team. They announced it today because Women History Month. But we have 50-50 representation, female, male, in our executive team. We have over 40%, I think, roles over director are women. So it's a really diverse company. There's a lot of people of color, there's a lot of women, there's a lot of representation, and that makes you feel safer in many aspects. I think that's a big challenge when you're reporting to a white guy that is reporting to a white guy that is reporting to a white guy. It gets really hard to see yourself growing anywhere, and it's really hard to feel protected. And that's when the village comes in. And my job before that, I had this like white guy to white guy to white guy reporting org, and I had a friend from another area. She's an engineer, and she was a staff engineer, and she was in a meeting that all the directors in my area were but me, the only woman, and I was not invited. And the meeting started, and she was like, "Where's Lupin? She should be here. She's the director has been here for the longest time. We're going to make decisions around the area that she's responsible for. Why is she not here?" And she sent me a message on Slack. She's like, "Hey, there's this meeting going on, and you should be here." So I reached out to my manager. It's like, "Hey, why I'm not here?" And she's like, "I'm not sure." He was new, so he didn't quite knew dynamics. I'm not sure. Like, here's the link. Join. And I joined the meeting, and the person that organized the meeting, his face changed because he was intentionally leaving me out of the meeting. I'm like, why? Why are people doing that? And that's because I'm a woman and I'm loud. So if you're saying something that is not in favor for my team, I'm going to speak up in this meeting.
True.
And he didn't want that. He wanted a breeze. He wanted a good conversation. So he just removed the problem from the meeting, I guess. And that's why I'm like, if you have a village, if you have people that are there rooting for you, if you have people that are there supporting you, that's how you avoid those things, because they're going to happen. And I've been entire career avoiding as much as possible those things, because I'm really selective on where I work and when I work. But when you work a startup and startups grow, like I joined my last company when we were 80 and I left when we were 500. So work, culture works, startups grow, culture changes, and you get in the middle of that. So you're never fully safe from these things happening to you. But when you have a village, when you have representation, you start having a little bit more solid ground to step on.
This is amazing how you share. When startups or company grow, the leadership needs to grow with the company to have the representation, and also politics. Clearly, the parties happen, but if you have good friends who sponsors or allies, they can bring you in the meeting. This is crazy. This actually happened when I was director. We felt the same way. Even before I became a director, this happens. Yeah, so that's why having the representation, being the best friend of other people who help you out, that's the key. Thank you for sharing with us. Now, Lupin, let's talk about growth PM. And actually, lots of our audience are thinking about getting into the profession at growth PM, not just PM, like growth PM specialized. So do you have any advice regarding how to become a growth product manager?
I think one good quality of a growth PM is to be data oriented. I like data obsessed, I would say. So understanding, knowing how to read data, knowing how to pull data, understanding different systems. You don't need to know SQL. Like I don't know how to write queries. I'm starting to learn Looker now because that's the best tool we have at my company. But I'm a badass mixed panel human. Like I can create any report on mixed panel and understand any data on mixed panel as long as the data is clear. I think that is one thing that is super important, because you need to be able to slice and dice information to better understand what's the experience each type of user is having, where, when, and how. An experimentation mindset, being completely obsessed about trying new things, testing everything, and understanding that data from the tests and make decisions based on that. We have a new chief experience officer, and in my first meeting with him yesterday with more people, he was like, the tests are going to fail, and that's fine. I'm like, we are talking the same language, my friend, because we're going to try a lot of things. And of those many things that you're going to try, a lot are going to fail, but one is going to be great and it's going to justify all the rest of the work. So my experimentation mindset means not only to test frequently and diverse parts of the app or whatnot, but it also means understanding that tests are not always gonna win, and most of the time are not gonna win. In my last company, we had these presentations with all the tests, and this was a winner, this was a winner, this was a loser, and this was a loser. And I was like, can we stop calling them losers? Let's call them learning. So it's like, this test was a win. This test was a learning. Like we started kind of.
Exactly.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize I had notifications on and something just on. So we started focusing a little bit more on, okay, why did this test didn't win? What's the learning here? And try to like bring that up higher. And well, we assume users were going to think this. The hypothesis was this, but we didn't validate it. And this is what, these are the hypotheses on why, and keep iterating on the same test until we completely understood the reasoning. So I think those are the two main differentiators of growth PMs. And also it tends to be a faster environment. More so in the startups, like you need to test something doesn't work, move to the next thing, test
exactly
to the next thing.
Is a test here, you mean A/B testing?
Yes, A/B testing, I mean more like experimentation. So it's A/B testing, but in the sense of we have a hypothesis. It's not, you can A/B test to launch any new feature to understand the impact and whatnot, but experimentation is more like, I have a hypothesis. This is the impact I think we're going to have. This is how we're going to, what we're going to implement. This is the A/B test, and then read the results and iterate over that. So that's kind of like that experimentation.
I see.
Mindset, more like a scientist.
I love this. And especially talk about the language. Actually, the language really changed people's mindset. Learning from your experiment so that you can design a better experiment next time instead of like loser. Just sounds really depressing.
Think about the engineer that spent 3 days of his life coding that change, that it was a quote unquote, like for those listening, I'm doing air quotes, a loser. I was like, okay, I just wasted a lot of my time. And when you have a lot of experimentation going on, like you have an experimentation program in your team or not, then that's going to happen more than no, because as our CXO said the other day, like experiments are going to lose, like not all of them are going to be winners. So the word is important. You're changing that mindset. I mean, like that, all that effort brought us learning. That was great. Let's keep moving. And then we're going to have a learning that's going to be a win, and we're going to implement that and keep moving.
Exactly. Perfect. Okay. So Lupin, and thank you very much for sharing with us regarding growing into growth PM. Now let's, and also remember for everybody, if you like those kind of insider podcasts, please make sure to like and subscribe our content, and so that you will be notified every time we have a new one. And actually within 2 weeks, we also have another podcast with a director product from Netflix. And then the week after, we have the podcast interview with the VP of product at Google. So actually very excited about those. And now let's go into Q&A. And people who join us live actually are our student in the inner circle. So which means that they get exclusive access to more insider tips with our speaker. So let's do this. Anyone listen in? Do you have any questions? We can go into Q&A quickly. You can directly unmute yourself and raise your hand. Carla. Hello.
Thank you. I'm here. I'm getting on camera and I'm muting myself. Hi, nice meeting you. I'm not sure if you've experienced this, but I've experienced this quite a bit, and I've witnessed it as women, especially women of color. It's our behavior that tends to be policed, and that ends up taking the focus on who we are versus our accomplishments and what we have been able to deliver and the value that we've been able to provide for the organization. Have you noticed that, experienced that yourself? And if so, how do you overcome that?
Thank you, Carla. That's a great question. It's painful to hear, but it's true. I feel that in the past I had people being like, "Oh, you need to improve your communications, and you need to." And I was like, "Okay, tell me how." And they couldn't pinpoint it, and I was like, "Is it because I talk like long sentences? That's because I'm like, my original language is Spanish, and like we speak longer. Like we're not that concrete. So I'm gonna try to be better in my English, so I don't do that. But then there's also a part of me that is always going to be like that, right? So I cannot improve, quote unquote, that. I'm not my accent. Yeah, it might improve, it might not. I don't know. But I'm never
born this way,
right? It's like I can, yeah, my accent is better than when I moved here 8 years ago. Probably it's still strong, and you can listen to the Latino in me coming from miles away. Definitely, I don't care. I'm like, and I have moments where I was like, you know what? I'm much more smarter in Spanish. Like, you want to have an argument in Spanish right now? Because we can have things like, it drives me crazy. But I understand also that there's a culture that I am embedded in. So I try to kind of like, there are parts of me that I'm not gonna turn off. I'm not gonna stop being one of the loudest voices in the room. I'm not gonna stop talking whenever I feel that I have something to say, even though if it's a room of like more senior people and whatnot, like I'm not gonna be, if I'm invited in that meeting, I assume that I'm part of that meeting. That's it, right? But if the comment is kind of like, can you like tone it down? I can't. Like, I can fake it for a solid month. That's all I can give you. But I also, on the other hand, so when I introduced myself in this new company for like all the product team, I had 2 people coming at me on DMs being like, hey, nice to meet you. I love seeing you in that meeting. Your energy is amazing. Like, I love how you got in there, like full power. And that's who I am. And that's what I feel I bring to the meeting. If it's not for you, don't take it. I don't care. But there's people they're appreciating that, and they're appreciating how I am, my energy and whatnot, and they're respecting me for that. And those are the people I want to talk to. So that's kind of how I feel it. And it's a little bit unapologetic, I would say. But I'm like, hey, I'm going to bring the whole me here. If you don't like it, that's kind of like your fault, because I'm not criticizing the way you are. It's scary when it's more senior people, for sure. But I try to, I also avoid conflict as much as I can. So I try to, you know what, if that person is in the meeting, I'm just gonna say whatever I feel is like important to the point, and just skip it. But I'm not gonna change the way. And I take the good parts too, right? Is if you're saying something that is gonna help me grow and be better at my job, I'm gonna take that. But for me, one of the strong parts is always like communicating and being more politically correct sometimes, or even more strategic sometimes with what I tell, what I don't tell. I am pretty open. Like, I'm gonna tell you everything. So that's something that I don't know if it's cultural or what, but I feel that it is something that happens to me when it's like, oh, you don't want me to discuss certain things around certain people because you don't like that people. Like, I don't want to get on that. That is not. So that's, I don't know if I answer your question, but that's kind of what I
yeah, that helped a lot. Thank you.
But
awesome.
If you're loud, be the loud person in the room. If you are shy, be the shy person in your room, but be yourself your best way. And if they want to change you, then they are the problem in many cases.
Yeah, exactly. The other side of the party actually love you for being who you are. Right. That's why I really like you the first time we talked. So wow, we need to bring her on the podcast because she can inspire like millions of women out there through her story. So there's always two-sided story. And so next time, quick tip for everybody, next time when people give you advice, you need to evaluate and ask lots of follow-up questions to answer, is this constructive feedback or not? And actually, I have like 1 minute short story. It's crazy. So before I became a director, I asked my existing boss, saying, hey, what can I improve so that I can become a director as well? Because I want to get on the seat on the table. And then my director and manager at the time saying that you're too green. I was like, define too green. How can I make more yellow, less green, more ripe? And he doesn't, he's just like, you don't spend enough time in the company. I would say, join the company, only 3 years in the company. I was like, okay, so what can I do better? Except I can change the fact that I'm not old enough, or I'm only 3 years in the company, but doesn't change my leadership potential. What can I work on? And the more I ask, the less information I can get. So which means that it's BS, is like, there's not anything you can do. It's more about you being too young. So that triggered me to become a director outside my existing company, because I just felt like I'm just too young and I cannot change. I'm always the youngest director. So what?
I cannot get older because you're asking me to grow up. No, I love that. I think that's, and I started doing that at some point when I was like, okay, let me know how can I improve that? What is my communication style that you like? Is it about what the message I'm giving, the way I'm giving it, the way I am, the way I talk, like my accent? What is there? And there are a lot of things that I improved a lot from feedback like that. But when the feedback was just like repeating, and I kept changing things and improving things, and the feedback was repeating from random people, I was like, okay, let me dig a little bit deeper. And say, oh, you're just repeating something that someone told you, and you have no idea what I should do. It's just you're not comfortable with the way I talk. So there's another option. That's one of the reasons why I was like, peace out once. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to be able to improve my English anytime soon. So if that's going to portray me as not professional, not smart enough, It's your problem, not mine.
Maybe the company wasn't diverse enough. Yeah, cool. Any other question before we close today's podcast? Or the speaker, raise your hands. No, cool. Okay, great. And Lupin, how can we break into? Oh, there's a question. I think Chimani asked this question. How can we break into a growth PM role? So she's her question is more about how to land a job in PM role, transitioning from other industry into PM role. So do you have any top tips?
Yes, I was talking about this with someone in the past, and I was telling them like kind of like start creating your own portfolio of stories and things that show that growth mindset. If you're a PM from different area, show a little bit more of like that depth on data, that depth on experimentation. I hired many people for growth PM roles. Many of them didn't come from a PM, from a growth background, but came from like data analytics background, from PM on a small company where many of the things they did were actually really aligned to growth, from marketing. So people that had so it depends on kind of like what your background is, but start gathering the examples of things that could be applied to a growth PM role. So anything related, as I said before, with data, anything related with experimentation mindset and how you run experiments. Even like this person I was talking, she was an experimentation, she was a PM, but she was not a growth PM and she wanted to be a growth PM. I was like, just start running more experiments in your little area that you own within the app and try to grow that area. So then you're going to have the case studies or examples to give you in interviews and kind of like explain how from there you want to migrate to a growth role. And
Perfect.
then the other way is within the same company, if there's a growth role, growth PM opportunity, start like building the relationship with the team that is on that and be like, okay, what are you missing? What is the person that you want to hire, or what's your next hire going to look like, and start building towards that.
This is amazing. Actually, you touch upon the key concept we teach people inside PM Accelerator, which is building a product portfolio to demonstrate your skills before you even become a product manager. This is amazing. Hey guys, we have 13 different kind of product ideas, and you can build on the side for your product portfolio. And I'm also going to link the 13 different project in the show notes, so you guys can start build your product portfolio starting from today. Okay, awesome. Thank you for providing all the like insider secret tips today. Thank you, Lupin. All right. So any last minute advice you want to tell our audience?
I think there's one in the chat. Ian.
There's a question here. What top 3 must-have skills in senior product manager?
Well, I've been hiring mostly on growth roles, so it's kind of relates with what I was saying. But if I have to move outside to not give the same answer all the time, I would say I think there are like hard skills, soft skills. On the soft skills side is the power to influence people without power. I think that is something that as a PM you need to be really good at. Like everyone needs to rally behind you, even though you have no one is reporting to you and you don't have the power of a title over them to make them move, which is something that I don't even do to people that report to me. But it's kind of like how traditionally in companies, like, oh, you do whatever your boss says. As a product manager, you have to manage a lot of people, rally a lot of people around products, around ideas, around experiments and whatnot. But they don't owe you, quote unquote, anything. So that power, I think that skill, I think it's super important. It's a soft skill, but super important. I think I'm trying to think the top 3. Execution, and be able to prove that you can execute in a tight timeline, making decisions on the way. I think it's important for a PM, senior PM role. I think you need to know how to execute on different projects at the same time and how to prioritize. And then I don't know if this is a like something that you will be able to find out on an interview and whatnot, but maybe from examples. But I think another good skill is to know when to ask for help.
Nice.
To know when to escalate problems, to know how to escalate problems, to know how to do it on time enough to avoid a fire. A lot of people don't understand that our role as directors is to help you put up potential fires before they even happen, and not running behind you to make you put them out, right?
Be the firefighter.
Exactly. Sometimes you're like, if you tell me certain things, I know when something is going to explode. If I don't have that information, I'm not. But if you're like, I feel like something might be happening here, I'm going to wait it out. That's a big problem. That talks about how you're not experienced enough to escalate things at the right time. And also, if you could escalate everything all the time, it's kind of like, well, I have 5 more PMs to work with. So it's like, I cannot be running behind your team all the time. So it's kind of like a good balance. But for me, it's a really important skill to know when and how to escalate things, to make things happen. Like, I'm here to unblock you, but you need to bring up which blocks are showing up.
This is beautiful. Thank you so much, Lupin. And thank you for your time, and also the audience in our inner circle. Thank you for your questions as well. For people who are interested in inner circle, please go to drnancy.com/inner circle so you can get exclusive Q&A right now. And currently inner circle is free, so people should take advantage, continue to learn starting from today. Thank you very much, Lupin, for joining us. So everyone, please make sure to share, subscribe, and follow Product Insider, and check out our future episode with Director of Product at Netflix and VP of Product at Google. And thank you very much for joining us today, Lupin. All right, have a good day. See you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Cool. Lupin, stay here. 1 sec. Let me stop recording now. Let me, hold on. Let me checking on one thing. 1 sec. Let me stop the, how to turn off. Oh, how to turn off. 1 sec. How to, 1 sec. Oh.